What's going on, guys? I'm Dobry, and in this next part for build crafting for survival difficulty, I'm going to cover the conflicting perks. We will want to avoid conflicting perks as much as possible, so let me just whip up the perk chart once again and talk about perks and how some perks can be in conflict or not work at all with other perks. So first and most obvious and quite logical thing is Blitz. Blitz will not work with any melee. Will only work with melee weapons. It will not work with any ranged weapons. So you don't want to use it. Another conflict of perks is Ricochet. If you like to play Ricochet works well with melee characters. If you are playing a sneaky character that doesn't always remain in the line of sight of enemies, well, no, Ricochet will not give you a huge mileage, and it's really conflicting with builds that utilize sneak attacks or builds that kill fast and do not generally stay for a long time in a firefight. In addition to that, let's not forget that Ricochet only works with ranged attacks, so if you want to have better protection against melee attacks, you want to be playing with rooted, because you get a good amount of damage resistance, and if you play with melee weapons, you will also get better damage. And if you take a look at the third perk for rooted, you may automatically disarm enemies that use melee weapons. Well, that does not cover some of the Far Harbor enemies, because they don't really use melee weapons. They are a melee weapon in itself, because they're animals and so on and so forth. So one of the biggest inherent conflicts with perks actually involve the perks that actually govern your damage. This means Big Leagues, Iron Fist, Heavy Gunner here, Rifleman, Gunslinger, Commando, and so on and so forth. Why is that? I see so many people picking a number of those perks to use them together, just in case they get a weapon or something that helps, that's governed by those perks. That is actually extremely bad build crafting, because the best thing you can do is select a weapon and stick with it, even if that's say Heavy Gunner, because Heavy Gunner is probably the most difficult of them all to make it work, but once you do, you're outright amazing. Because right now for survival, Heavy Gunner uses a lot of ammunition, and ammunition is no longer weightless, and you need to be carrying huge amounts of ammo, and yeah, that's not much fun. But it has to be said, once you get to the good Gatling lasers, you'll be perfectly okay. And of course there are good Gatling lasers that can be looted from various places or bought, and you don't even need to be working on intelligence in order to get the best mileage out of it. Yeah, that's the biggest conflict that I actually see. If you want to use a certain weapon, just stick with it. I know when I started the game, I had this idea of playing a sniper. If you see my first video about a small beginners build, a small build for beginners, in which you want to experience everything, see everything, and so on and so forth, I actually said that I had this idea of being a sneaky sniper character who once he gets revealed, can whip up a huge hammer and bash some skulls and so on and so forth. I thought it's really cool, but in the end, on survival, that does not work very well, because early game will make or break you. It's not unwinnable. Now, that is the thing, it's not unwinnable, but it can cause so much early game frustration that you can just opt to reduce the difficulty and say fuck you. Yeah, That's not fun. And quite honestly, one of the reasons for that is that you probably picked a number of perks that you shouldn't have picked. Say, if you want a good sniper character, you might want to play with gun nut in order to make everything very quickly. You will want to invest your perks in rifleman, gun nut, ninja, Mr. Sandman in order to add a, this is why we're picking gun nut, in order to add a suppressor to the pipe rifle. That will be your that will be your main sniper for a good amount of time. So yeah, you want to focus very early on. Selecting perks at random just because it feels okay-ish is not a good idea. For example, for survival, I also discourage people to select locksmith and hacker early on. I believe those are perks that should be picked later on, after you've set the pillars of your build. This is what I like to call the most important skills that need to be picked at level and maxed as soon as possible at the level in which you can unlock them. For example, if you want to play with heavy gunner, you want to pick heavy guns early on, or maybe not early on because there is no heavy gun available, but you do get a minigun, so yeah. And of course you can play with the junk jet, but that's another thing. You want to grab the second level on 11, the third one on level 21, and so on and so forth. You don't want to wait. And this is why I believe the next huge conflict of perks comes with locksmith and hacker, because everyone wants to go everywhere, explore everything, see as much as they can, read as much lore and so on and so forth. But if you play on survival, you'd want to set a good base for survival. Yeah, you want to increase your survivability by either adding more points in endurance or adding points in armor in order to make a better armor. Set yourself with good ballistic sweep, or if you play with power armor, improve your power armor as best as possible. Those are all huge choices, and they all flow inherently from your idea for the game and what kind of special attributes did you take. I think I will make a simple video that's about how charisma and intelligence clash the most, and how charisma can actually outweigh intelligence on a number of ways, but this will be an argument for another day. And the last but not least, I'd like to talk about Fortune Finder and Scrounger and how those can clash with a number of other perks. Scrounger and Fortune Finder, I usually leave at 2 points should I decide to pick them, because they are, while they're useful in throughout the game, you can do just as much with charisma because you'll be swimming in caps, and ammunition is not all that uncommon. And thing is, as I said, in early game, you really need to put your perk points where it counts, and not work on secondary skills or utility skills for that matter. You want to work on the things that make your character powerful and that make your character survive the game. Because as I said, early game makes or breaks you. It is winnable, but you don't want to rage quit way too often, and that's not fun. And of course, let's not forget that you cannot autosave, and you don't want to lose just so much progress. So, to conclude this video, I would like to outline the most important things. So, stick to a single weapon. Rifleman is probably the best option for you, because rifles can do so much for you. You can have a good sniper, you can have a shotgun that pretty much shreds and kills everything in close range. So in essence, Rifleman can also make big leagues or Iron Fist mood. Try to avoid utility skills like locksmith, hacker, fortune finder, scrounger. Vance is absolute bullshit, and pickpocket. Pickpocket. I never ever played a build with pickpocket really, unless I'm already very high level and don't know what to do with my points. But even when I don't know what to do with my points, I put them somewhere else. Focus seriously. Try to play to the strengths of your build. For example, if you want to play with heavy guns, play with heavy guns, demolition expert, play with power armor, add probably some points in strong back in order to be able to carry more ammunition, add probably some points in steady aim to help you with when firing those Gatling lasers and miniguns and so on and so forth. Try to play to the strengths of your build. Decide if you want to go Lone Wanderer, which is actually really good as well, because it gives you extra carry weight, it gives you all kinds of stuff. Try to avoid as many perk conflicts as possible. Survival difficulty has changed a lot, and you really need to adapt for it. You really must not pick perks that are just not plain stupid, but let's put it just because. Yeah, just because. Alrighty guys, I believe that's going to do it for this video. I hope you understand my logic when creating builds on survival now, and in the next video I'm going to talk about the pillars of the builds that I make, and what kind of skills do you need at start and what kind of perks you should pick at start. So catch you guys later, take care and have a good day.